Hello, everybody. My name's Rose Roby, and I'm the Deputy Director of Fundraising for Jill Stein and Butch Ware on this amazing campaign. And I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I have been in independent politics for 30 plus years, which is giving away my age a little bit because I didn't start as a baby. And I've been with the Green Party for about 12 years now. And I've never seen anything like this campaign. I think we have reached a moment in history where people need something that is for the people, where people are standing up and saying, no, we will not vote for genocide. We will not do it. Where people are saying, why is that money for genocide not going for healthcare, for housing, for an environment that is on the edge of catastrophe? And Jill Stein and Butch Ware, they are meeting this moment in a way that, like I said, I've never seen before. I can't tell you how honored I am to play even a small role in this. It's when you're doing this many years, this is what you want to see, is this momentum building. And it's not going anywhere. And as much of this the anti-democratic party, as we call them, has tried, they haven't done anything to stop that momentum. So I just want to welcome all of you here tonight. And now, enough of me. I want to actually put on Mark Alborno, who is going to introduce our special guest. And what I want you to do is use the Q&A feature. And please put your questions, because this is a town hall and there is going to be questions. So please do that. And thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure.
Hello, everybody. I had to pull up in order for me actually to talk for a few minutes, because what we're all doing this election, it's something different. It's really something special to everybody, not special only for our brother and sister in Palestine. A lot of people probably know me, that I'm from Gaza. So our fight here to free Palestine, it's called resistance. The resistance comes in so many different ways. One of them is resist this duopoly that we are fighting to change, that they are not listening to us, that they are ignoring us. And it is time for us to stand. So when we were thinking about who should we bring as a guest with us tonight, and it gives us actually a meaning, I really couldn't think about one individual. A lot of people seen him getting arrested, just like our presidential candidate got arrested with her campaign manager, Jason Cole. So it is important that to know resistance comes with consequences. One of them probably getting arrested, but that doesn't mean we are doing something wrong. We are fighting for our rights, because this is the only way we have to do it. In order for us to free Palestine, we have to free ourselves first from this duopoly that we have been fighting it for years, that we are all sick and tired of playing with us, playing with our emotion, and using our taxes for their own benefits. People go to the White House, people go to the Congress, and go to the Senate. They didn't know anything. They didn't have anything. And all of a sudden, by the time actually they retired, when they are 110 years old, They're millionaires. Where did all this money come from? Of course, one of them is AIPAC. So it is time right now to resist. The resistance that we are doing, it is in multiple direction, multiple dimension. We are doing it not just for us. We are doing it for our kids. We are doing it for our family. We are doing it for our nieces and nephew, because this movement, it is not for me. I'm not gonna live another 50 or 60 years. But you guys, the generation that we are fighting for, the generation that they have been arrested with Dr. Jill Stein and Jason Cole in the university, this is who we are fighting for. And I would love
Mark, I think you just got muted.
Yes, Mark, you are muted if you can
Mark, you're
unmute.
muted.
Yeah, my fat fingers that just sometimes press things. I don't know.
Okay.
Ask my wife; she knows it. Anyway, so I'm gonna actually introduce right now the resistance. The resistance, please, if you don't mind, put yourself on the camera. Let everybody see who you are, because the second they see you, they will know that we're talking about the only resistance. تفضل حبيبي.
Allah Khalik. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor. Can you guys hear me clearly? Am I coming in clearly?
Great.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Awesome. I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Jill Stein yesterday, and obviously the question that I asked about, whether or not you do support Palestinian resistance is because this is the most taboo topic. That was specifically why I asked it to you twice yesterday. And, hearing you say that, international law allows for the Palestinians to resist got everyone to start clapping. And the reason that is because it's usually so looked down upon for us as Palestinians to even have that right, to be able to defend our dignity, to be able to defend our homeland, to be able to defend our families in a country here in the US that takes pride in stand your ground laws, right? A country that takes pride in being able to defend your family, defend your homeland. But yet when it comes to us, it's not allowed. That's at least how it's been painted. And so I just wanted to thank you for your answer, for giving us that voice. And like I mentioned yesterday, thank you for getting arrested, for the Palestinians, for going out there, because the reality is all these other politicians, they don't even come to our protests. I don't know how many tens of thousands of protests we've had now. I can maybe count on one hand the politicians that have shown up to our protests worldwide. So thank you, Dr. Jill Stein. What a beautiful movement. Thank you for giving us our voice. It's an honor to be part of this movement. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you. And now I just realized that Professor Butch Ware is actually with us. I'm really sorry. I mean, we've been on the road, so you've probably seen us everywhere. And we don't want Butch Ware to get arrested. Let me be clear here. I don't want you to get me to get this in a wrong way. We want to protect them. We want to have them lead us, because they are the leaders that we are looking for. We are looking for the first white Jewish American as a presidential candidate, with the first Black Muslim American as a vice president. Like Dr. Jill keeps saying, we got our base covered. Let them bring the fight. And I'm going to give you the leader of this movement, Dr. Jill Stein.
Thank you so very much, Mark. And thank you, Resistance. And I think Resistance The full name of Resistance is Beautiful, and it is beautiful. Resistance is what an occupied people must do. Resistance is also what we must do here in this country. Because as Martin Luther King said, my country is the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today. And to free Palestine, as Mark said, we must also free ourselves from the duopoly, free ourselves from endless war, free ourselves from oligarchy, from neocolonialism, from the genocide that's been committed historically in this country, not only against African Americans and indigenous Americans, and, you know, the slow rolling genocides that we have committed around the world. We must stand up against all of that, because the war abroad goes hand in hand with a war here at home, and neither of these are okay. The war at home is a war against working people, and it is a war against our democracy. There is no lesser evil in this race. We are standing up to demand an America that works for all of us and a world that works for all of us. And our opponents in this race, as people know well, are the advocates of genocide. And there is no lesser evil. There is one candidate, Kamala Harris, who's committing genocide, and another, Donald Trump, who wants to hurry up and finish the job. So they talk circles around this, and they try to distract, and they try to blame and shame the opponents of genocide. That is, the voters who refuse to vote for genocide and the candidates who offer an alternative. They try to silence us, to shame us, and they do everything possible to change the subject so that we're not talking about, the moral imperative of this moment to shut down the genocide and the endless war machine, which is creating havoc, crisis, misery, war, and planetary destruction around the world, and which is, doing the same here at home. They are trying to change the subject. So above all, our message tonight, let me say, is one of gratitude. And it is a declaration of victory that we have won. We still have battles to go, but I think we have won the day here by coming together, by embodying this new world that we are calling for, by being the beloved community that Martin Luther King spoke of, by our coming together in solidarity across lines of race and ethnicity and national origin and all genders and all the rest, that we have come together. They want us to play a game of divide and conquer, and we refuse to play it. And in this race, it has been so inspirational to stand with the Muslim American community and the Arab American community and the student community and the Jewish community and the Christian and every religion and non-religion out there, to stand together in human values as one human family to demand the world that we deserve. As James Baldwin said, and I'm paraphrasing here, all children everywhere belong to all of us. And we will not stand by and watch children basically fed into the meat grinder over and over again, as well as innocent civilians. The way that this war is expanding right now is enough to light a fire under anyone's feet. Even if you could put on blinders and not see the genocide. And I have to say, I don't understand how people don't see the genocide, how one can not be riveted on this genocide on a daily basis. But even for those who don't get the genocide, just to know that we are so in the target here, the commander-in-chief position has been handed over to Bibi Netanyahu. And that is who is making life and death decisions for us right now. And you may well know, Bibi Netanyahu is enlarging this genocidal war into the West Bank, into Lebanon, northern Gaza now. is under an extermination policy where tens and tens of thousands of people are at risk for being killed. This war is being extended into Lebanon, into the West Bank, and there are bombing campaigns now going on in Yemen and Syria as well as Iran. And just today, Israel said that it is contemplating regime change in Syria, and that's the last thing Syria needs, is to be subjected to even more violence from without. And, this is kind of the plan that has long been in the works, in the same way that Israel has long had its eyes on Iran. And we are seeing those hostilities break out now, knowing full well that Iran is partnered with Russia, and Israel is threatening the nuclear sites, the nuclear power sites in Iran. And this, to be bombing nuclear power sites is like detonating a nuclear bomb. This is unbelievable. It is a war crime. The United Nations has warned against it, and Russia as well, which is in a partnership with Iran, a military partnership, has also warned against it. So this war could go nuclear, not to mention that US foreign policy has been bringing Russia and China closer together. So the terms of this war are staggering. And many people don't know, because it's hardly been mentioned in mainstream media, that the draft is back. They have brought back the draft. That happened a couple of years ago. And just this past year, the Congress actually automated the draft so that it is automatically registering you. If you are a man between the ages of 18 and 25, you are in the database. And it may be extended to women soon as well. That too is being discussed in Congress. And all it takes is for the president to decide that the US is now in a wartime situation. We need boots on the ground. So guess what? You are on your way to the Zionist state of Israel to defend its right to commit genocide with your own blood. It's not only our dollars, but it's also our flesh and blood that are now in the target hairs in this endless war. So, it's no wonder that the political elites are trying so hard to censor this conversation. You may have heard last week that Tavis Smiley was given smear questions to ask in our interview, and factoids to try to smear us with totally distorted and untrue lies, a pack of lies and distortions to try to smear us on air. But he thankfully went public about it. And it's like the flip side of the censorship and the clampdown on freedom of the press. They're also injecting into the press this manipulation, which is no surprise, in the same way that they're manipulating our elections by throwing candidates off the ballot. It's not just Donald Trump, who is a threat to democracy by interfering with the peaceful transfer of power. It's also the Democrats who interfere with peaceful, full, and fair elections by throwing their opponents off the ballot in advance of those elections. So we have fascism here. We don't have to wait for Donald Trump. We have fascism when there are some 80 cop cities that are being built largely under Democratic municipal government. We have the Israeli occupation forces brought in to train local police, and often through these cop cities, which are really the essence of police violence and the security state and the surveillance state, the Patriot Act. We have both parties that have been leading the charge here. And the Democrats are working overtime right now to try to get people all paranoid about Donald Trump and the Republicans. But for every issue that they are trying to, fear campaign around right now, the Democrats have had their hand in this as well. We hear about Donald Trump as the guy who's going to deport all the immigrants. Well, Hispanics are actually flocking to Trump right now for not knowing about our campaign. But when you ask them why, what I have found is that Hispanics will say it's because it's Joe Biden who's been deporting all the immigrants here, far more than Donald Trump. And the same was true for Barack Obama, who is deporting far more than George Bush. So never mind what they say, especially what the Democrats are saying to raise fear and loathing. It's really important to look at the track record, whether you look at climate, where in fact it's under Democrats that fossil fuel extraction has skyrocketed more than under Republicans, in spite of what they say. It's actually the Democrats who have, in fact, the worst track record on fossil fuels. Whether you're looking at the right to an abortion, Democrats have been promising forever that they would fix this. According to Biden and Obama, this was the first thing they would do. They never got to it. They never codified Roe. And right now, they could fix the crisis of abortion access simply by building abortion clinics in every state. They can do this on federal property. The White House can do that right now. So they are talking out of both sides of their mouths. I'd say plug your ears. Do not listen to these political predators who are trying to manipulate you, who are trying to steal from us the power that we have. 1 out of every 3 eligible voters did not vote in the last presidential election because these voters, which tend to be lower income, of color, and younger, they don't want anything to do with these zombie political predatory parties. They need to hear about us. They have already said no, and there are enough of them. If they actually were informed about this, they could flip this election on a dime. If war broke out with Iran, which is not a far-fetched idea in the least, we could see the whole electorate flip on a dime because we've got 2 candidates here who are competing to pledge allegiance to Israel and who are competing to have the most vicious, lethal armed forces ever in history. This is just shocking. And Kamala Harris, unfortunately, has revealed herself to be an empty suit who can't even distinguish herself from Joe Biden, except to say that she will have Republicans in her cabinet, and she will have Republican advisors to help her, meet their needs and their wishes. So, we have a uniparty right now. We need to stand up and be the party of the people, which is what we are. And I urge you to just go full bore. Go to our website, sign up to volunteer, because grassroots campaigns win by flyering, tabling, door knocking, and phone banking, and we'll help you do that. If you sign up to volunteer, we will get back to you and direct you right away to the areas of the website where you can start getting those resources in hand, as well as trainings that are available on the web and live. So own this campaign, own this historic moment. This is a tipping point because we are at the breaking point of history. As Martin Luther King said, the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. It is bending right now. We are doing that bending right now. We are bending away from endless war and genocide and oligarchy and fascism. And we are bending towards people, planet, and peace over profit, and an America and a world that works for all of us. I want to put in one final word. If you can make a financial contribution, do that. Whatever you can afford, put it into work right now, because your dollars translate into votes. Whether you are helping us fund the flyers that we need to get the word out to everyone, digital ads, which we've begun doing now. We have some 77 of them that are up on billboards in Arizona alone. That's just one state. We should have 700 in every state to be getting the word out. Also advertising on social media, and also organizers to help provide the support. The events that we've done in recent days have been absolutely overflow events, not just standing room, but out the door. And these are events that have been organized in the course of 24, 36 hours. People are rising up strong, and they are so full of young people who are leading the charge now in so many ways for the moral future that we deserve, as well as Muslim Americans and Hispanic Americans. It's just, it is the uprising. It is that beautiful uprising. It is that beautiful resistance that is embracing our political power. As Alice Walker said, the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing we have it to start with. We have it. It's time to celebrate the community that we are and the world that we are creating together. We reject this propaganda of powerlessness. We are standing up now for the world we deserve. There has never been a perfect storm like this moment. So I thank you all so much for being a part of this solidarity, glorious community building movement that we need right now if we're going to get out of here alive into the next century, let alone even into the next decade, and potentially even into the next year. It's all of us or it's none of us. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We can do this, but only together. And if we are together, there's absolutely no stopping us. Thank you all so very much. I will pass it back now to Rose. We are waiting for Jason. I don't know if Jason has arrived. He was hung up
Jason
in
has
traffic.
arrived, so he can take it over from here.
Well,
Jason!
welcome,
I
Jason,
have
and we'll
arrived.
soon hear from Butch, our incredibly inspired VP candidate, and just big shout out to everyone. So great to be with you.
Thank you, Jill. I just caught the tail end the last few minutes. I just literally arrived home 5 minutes ago after fighting Seattle traffic from the airport coming back from Phoenix this morning. And I really want to give a massive shout out to the folks in Arizona who turned out in literal droves. We went to Ware You Bean Coffee, so I want to give a shout out to Ware You Bean Coffee in Phoenix for hosting. The owners are supporters. Their son Zakir is a fantastic organizer for Abandon Harris in the Phoenix area, and his brother Imran actually ran for Congress up here in Washington State in the district right next door to mine. But we thought maybe 25, 30 people in a coffee shop at what time was it? About 11 a.m. I don't even remember, but it was overflowing. It was out. There were at least 100 people there. It was out the door. And just a testament to the growth of this movement. And we focus a lot on genocide on this campaign because we have to. It is the moral imperative of our time. But as I'm sure Jill said, and I didn't hear anything that she said, but I'm sure she said we are here for health care for all, housing for all, education justice, reparations for the Black community, making sure that we tackle the climate crisis the way it needs to be. And I do want to say this is, in an alarming way, a report came out from the United Nations just this past week where they said that their assessment of where we are on track, if we do not change trajectory on climate and fossil fuel emissions, that we are on track to hit the plus 3.1 degrees Celsius. And I don't want to be alarmist, or these are the scientists begging our politicians to pay attention and put the policies in place so that we have a survivable future. That report is telling us we are not going to have a survivable future. This is what the climate scientists have been telling us since the very first IPCC report in 1992. I think the IPCC report came out where they said, if we draw down on fossil fuel emissions, we can avoid the plus 1.5 degrees Celsius. And we can do that drawdown over 100 years. But all our politicians did, taking their cues from their donors in the fossil fuel industry and the war machine, was ramp up emissions over the last 35 years. And here we are in crisis. I was just in Alaska last week, and we have supporters in Alaska. But the situation at the poles is dire. The rate of warming at the poles is absolutely unbelievable, as Jill likes to say, off the charts all the time. But we have Native American communities getting flooded out from glacier melt. I mean, the communities being destroyed. And so when we talk about climate refugees, we have to understand we are going to see massive climate refugeeism. Is that a word, refugeeism? Massive climate refugees coming to us from all across the world, from places like Iran and Pakistan and India, where the temperatures are so high you can't grow food anymore, but also climate refugees within our own country from our coastal communities, a lot of them indigenous communities up in Alaska. So it is a moral imperative not only to stop genocide, but I want to tell you, we are facing the extinction of the human race through climate change, through climate disaster. And I want to say that there are still communities in North Carolina that are not being served by our government through the Hurricane Helene that happened weeks ago. Weeks ago, families are still stranded without communications, without transportation. And why is it that we are spending billions and billions of dollars bombing kids in Ukraine, bombing kids in Palestine, bombing kids now in Lebanon? I was horrified. I was horrified to see that Israel has bombed the coastal city of Tyre. As I have said, one of the most fabled and ancient cities on the entire planet. We're really talking the cradle of civilization here. And Israel is bombing Tyre and doing it with our tax dollars. And the point is that those tax dollars not only are going to murder innocent civilians, they are not being used at home to help Americans who are in crisis. Americans are in crisis all over this country through lack of health care, unaffordable housing, and now natural disasters that are really coming home to roost that scientists have been warning us about for 35 years. So that is all devastating and terrible, but we are here with the solutions. That's really what this campaign is about, is the solutions for addressing these problems that we have to address immediately. We've been saying we needed to address them immediately for the last 20 years, and they've been ignored. But now we are absolutely in crisis moment. We are on the cusp of a real breakthrough with the Green Party, who has been standing up for climate justice, has been standing up for things like ranked choice voting, has been standing up for fair wages for decades now. And people see that the two parties, the two duopoly parties, taking their cues from Wall Street, the war machine, the fossil fuel industry, and APAC, they have utterly failed our country, and now is the time, and we see that momentum growing here. So are we doing fundraising now, or am I introducing Butch? Because I don't know. Am I introducing Butch?
It's
Butch,
always
have
a
you
good
spoken
time to
yet?
fundraise, but
You could,
introduce
you,
Butch and then fundraise. I don't know.
you could do
Okay,
a quick pitch
fantastic.
and
I'm
then
I'm
bring on
walking into
Butch.
this. I'm walking into this cold right now, but I've got a lot to say. But I did want to start out by giving a huge shout out to Arizona and to address what I personally experienced up in Alaska. I went to the Alaska Federation of Natives conference there and spoke with people about what is going on in Alaska. And Alaska is the canary in the coal mine on climate for this country, and our native communities, our indigenous people, have been telling us for decades also what is happening to their fisheries, what is happening to their environment. So without further ado, I want to say I have been so honored to know to get to know Butch over the last couple of months, and it feels like it has absolutely flown by. But I've known Butch for now maybe 10 weeks. And I feel Butch and I were talking the other day, about we have been preparing ourselves for this moment. There is something cosmic about what's going on about this moment right now, and we see it in communities that we are addressing all over the country. We see it happening on social media. The Democratic Party, as Jill always says, quaking in their boots, but honestly, they should be, because they are failing us right now. And Butch has spoken with such clarity to this moment in the 10 weeks that I have known him, that I'm going to stop talking right now. I'm going to hand it over to him. Could not be more proud and more honored right now to be meeting these challenges with this man. Butch, please take it away.
Appreciate you, brother. And for those that, haven't had the opportunity to kind of sit on the long car rides, sometimes with me driving, sometimes with Jason driving, always with Jill shotgun. This triumvirate that you see on your screen right now has been thrown into a crucible of fire. And I'll just say, steel sharpens steel, like being on this campaign with you guys has really, it's helped perfect that kind of clarity about how we intervene in this moment. So I just want, to fully reciprocate. It's going to be a mutual admiration society between me and you, Jason. Appreciate all that you've contributed, and of course, Dr. Jill. You and I, I fully believe that this, partnership was something that was decreed on a day before time. That there never has been, quite this kind of duo in American politics or really in global history, and it's made, us a very, very tough target for people that would like to diminish the impact of the universality of what we are bringing in this moment. And it's not just about the representational politics of being, a white Jewish, doctor and a Black Muslim professor. It's really about understanding that, like, our respective faiths, our respective dispositions towards faith, right? More agnostic, but that all of our traditions of faith and conscience tell us that in this moment, the way that humanity is moving is wrong. And that we are, in point of fact, better than this. We are capable of better than this. That all of our traditions, all of the best in our societies tell us that we are capable of more than this. So that's where I want to start my address tonight. And I'm going to try to be brief in it. Although you guys have been knowing me for 10 weeks, so I get professorial and long-winded. So I'm not making any promises that I'll be brief, but I will I will at least attempt to be brief. So there's a saying in the Wolof language, and I learned to speak the Wolof language fluently when I was living in Senegal doing my PhD research. And they say that the child of Adam and Eve, the human being, never releases what their hand is holding until they are reaching for something better. And what I've found in these last 10 weeks on this campaign is that there was all this pain, and there was all this angst, and there was all this frustration in the community that was screaming and railing, not just to end the genocide, but to stop the cop cities, to stop the exploitation, of working people, to stop all of the kind of criminal behavior of the extractive 1%, to stop our political authorities who so cruelly and brutally use and abuse us. And that all of this was generating so much heat in the social media space, in protest spaces, and occasional bursts of light, but mostly heat, mostly anger, mostly frustration, desperation even. And what I have found in this campaign, and what I think that we have given to the American people, is a channel for their aspirations and hopes, not just for the venting of our fears and our frustrations. That people, when they look at this particular partnership and the way that this campaign has moved, they realize and are reminded that humanity can do better than this, that we can move past superficial divides and superficial differences to stand on our collective and shared humanity, and to defend and serve as stewards of those three things that the Green Party is always about, that are at the top of the screen right now: the people, the planet, and the peace. So I'm just going to say a few words briefly about these, and then I guess that means that I'm going to be leading into the fundraiser portion from there. The people. In my tradition, in my tradition of faith, in the Islamic tradition, in the Abrahamic tradition more broadly, the people are made out of the earth and out of the water. So the connection between the people and the planet is intimate and it is close. It harkens to us the sanctity of both, the sanctity of human beings, and human beings in all different colors, in all different shades. In my tradition, the Quran says we were created in different tongues and in different colors so that we would know one another. And when the West African Muslim scholars make analysis of this, they say that the implied meaning of the verb to know in those verses of the Quran is that we were made in different tongues and colors so that we would love one another, so that we would learn to appreciate that which is distinctive about one another. And what we have in Team Blue and Team Red are two teams that have been stoking hatred, division, divisiveness, sowing contempt for people, trying to politicize through fear and through hatred every single difference, so that they can commoditize all of your darkest fears and then utilize those against you when it's time for electoral politics to unfold. That no one is actually out there choosing what they want. They are just expressing their fears. Whereas we in this movement, and yes, Muslims have played an important role in this movement, but this is a freedom movement. This is an anti-imperialist movement. This is a movement that is bigger than any individual faith community, any individual ethnic community. This is a movement for collective human liberation. We, the people, demand that governance be restored to us. We, the people, believe that in these United States of America, which has never kept its promises to indigenous people, broken every treaty, and we demand restorative justice for every single one of those broken treaties. In these United States of America, which violated its own laws and ethical principles in the way that slavery was practiced in this country, we demand reparations for this. We demand just treatment for our Latin brothers and sisters. We demand just treatment for every single human being. Some people out there on Team Red are talking about making America great again. When did America ever live up to its promises? No. We, the people, demand that we make America work for everyone for the first time. And that is what this kind of unifying partnership brings, is the realization that beyond these superficial differences that we can make America live up to its broken promises. We can do that in large part just by divesting from the war machine, but we'll talk about that when we get to the peace. Let's turn to the planet. In every indigenous tradition, North American, South American, African, in the Abrahamic tradition, especially in the Islamic tradition, the human being plays a role of steward over our natural resources, that we are supposed to bequeath these to future generations. And I read a study, fascinating study, that showed that the most recent theory for essentially students of astronomy, cosmological, not cosmological, the sciences of astronomy in this age, they've actually concluded that it is very likely that the water on Earth, the water in our oceans and the water in our bodies, is older than the sun itself. that water was in the cloud of gas that collapsed into the sun. And so therefore the water that is in us, the water that is in the people, and the sacred waters that's in our oceans, in our rivers, that's now being polluted, that it's older even than the sun. That this is a kind of transcendent trust that has been passed literally for billions of years, for eons. And here we are on the verge of destroying the only home that humanity has ever had. And despite despite the lunatic projections of billionaires that like to blast themselves into space while their employees pee in cups because they can't get work breaks. This is the only home that humanity is likely to ever have. If we destroy this shared home, then what do we have? We have nothing. And we have authorities, blue and red, that are hell-bent on destroying the very environment that we live in. We say no more. The Green Party has said no more. Since its foundation at McAllister in 1984, right down through the inspired leadership embodied in Dr. Jill Stein, we stand in defense of this planet. And with swearing a solemn oath to pass it down to the next generation. And that brings us to the peace. And the relationship between the peace and the planet is illustrated in this heinous genocide in Gaza. This heinous genocide in Gaza, which in the first 3 months of the Zionist entity, Israel is a name of honor. I cannot call the Zionist entity by that name, I'm sorry. The Zionist entity's bombardment of Gaza, they released more greenhouse gases. They produced more global warming elements than the 20 smallest emitting countries in the world emit in a year. They did this in 3 months. Breaking the peace destroys the planet and it slaughters the people. And that is why Dr. Jill Stein has stood for denuclearization. It's why she has stood for the dismantling of the American empire, for restoring sanity, both moral and fiscal. The military industrial complex spends like drunken sailors on shore leaves. They spend everything on and don't even know where they keep the receipts. You ask them to audit things and they say, well, we can't find those few $1 billion. What kind of people can't find a few $1 billion? So this is obviously a breach of the people's trust, and it is compromising our ability to serve the people. If we can just divest from spending those 1 trillion or 1.3 trillion, depending on if we're including auxiliary costs, from feeding what is already the largest and most destructive war machine in human history, then we can serve the needs of the people, we can protect the planet, and we can restore the peace. So I have been inspired. I have been humbled by my association with the woman that you see on the screen. And I stand in solidarity with you, my sister soldier, Dr. Jill Stein, through November 5th and beyond, whatever comes, as we continue to build and grow this movement, because this movement is not just what the United States of America needs, but the world needs a United States of America that has responsible governance at the head of it.
Amen to that.
Thank you so much, Butch. Thank you so much, Jill. Jason, it's unbelievable journey what we're having. Every day we walk into an event thinking like Jason said, oh, we're gonna have 10, 15 people and just say hi and then walk. The number that we cross, it's really moves mountains, not just moves human. Every time I hear and listen to Dr. Stein or Professor Ware speak, I shook up. I mean, it touched any human I listen to. and they're in not for anything other than fighting for us, the people. And the only thing we can do other than voting, volunteering, is to really, it hit ourselves. We hit ourselves where it really hurts, is our pocket. And now is the time. And now is the time where actually, when we drive, I don't want to see any more red or blue sign. I want to see a green sign. I want to see a green billboard across the nation. And that is not free. Like I've been saying, I maxed out myself. My wife maxed out. Everybody in my family, I try to push them to max out. Because this is the fight that we have to do it. This is the fight that we have to fund it. This is the resistance. This is the least we can do right now, is to take it from our own home and start funding this. This is the only movement. It will free not only Palestine, that everybody is looking at our screen. Everybody is looking at our walls with our flags, our kufiyya, our traditions, our necklace, our jewelry, everything turned to a Palestinian movement. But this is the time where we really need you. And there is nothing is going to anybody's pocket. It is going to free you, not to free anybody else. I'm looking at it right now. What is it, Jason?
I thought you were wrapping up. So I was going to say thank you.
I'm looking at our fundraising website right now. I see actually $60. You know what? I love this $60 because that means you are trying to do something. I see even at $24. Actually, I love this right now. Clinicia, Wales, $2.40. That means this is the max I can do, even if it's 24 cents. Do it. We will add them up. We will make sure to put them where it's going to hurt each single one of those patches, red and blue. Let's make it green. Whenever we go to events and see actually all the people are doubling and trebling, obviously they're listening to us, but we have to reach more. We have to reach more with your donation, with your generosity, with what you can. I'm not asking you to go and sell your house to donate for anybody, because the maximum anyway you can donate is $3,300. So please try to do whatever you could. The $60 came from Fatima Bay. The $24 came from Atul Talwar. Beth Lane donated $50. I see Nora donated $10. I see big numbers here. I mean, when I say big numbers, they're not like $1 million number. They're $1,000. $1,000 I see it from Richard. We really appreciate it, because this could cover at least maybe 25 seconds of the billboard, electronic billboard, because we have to run. We have to do it. Jill just asked, instead of 70 billboard, we need to make them 700 billboard. And we have to get the right fund for it. We just got from Muhammad Baba, $33. It's really anything you're able to do it. Jason, please take it while actually I'm looking over all the other names.
So the donate, thank you, Mark. And just a huge appreciation of Mark, who has been traveling on the road with us, has been connecting us with people all over the country. Mark is our senior advisor from North Carolina. And I will say that we would not be where we are without Mark. Mark is incredibly humble. He says, "What do I do? I'm just here helping." But Mark is one of those people that if you take him out of the system, you're gonna see a huge gap. So Mark, your value, your worth to this team and this movement is more than you could ever know. So please, everybody, just know that this has been a team of people who has been working hard for. Boy, Jill launched about a year ago, and I came on the team in January, and we've had staff working around the clock just for a year now. And I do want to say that the passion and the drive and the energy that Jill has for what we are doing here, we can't even keep up with her. Our team, she is just on the move, constantly ready to go, event after event after event after interview and podcast, and really honestly go to the campaign YouTube channel at Dr. Jill Stein and take a look at all the videos, and you will see volumes and volumes of interviews that we have done really since I think we started doing interviews that we were posting back as far as January, and they're all there for you to watch. One of the things that I want to make sure that I address right here, because the lamestream media, to coin a term from Sarah Palin back in 2008, the lamestream media, it's one of the few things that she got right, has a habit of taking things out of context and taking little slices of things and saying, "Oh, this is what they meant." And so they caught me yesterday in a coffee shop in Arizona, I gave a 10 or 12-minute intro while Jill was getting ready to address the crowd, and they caught me saying, "We want Harris to lose." Well, listen, of course we want Kamala Harris to lose because we want to win. When you're in a political race, you want your opponents to lose. But we don't just want Kamala Harris to lose. That's the part that the Democratic media establishment wants to cut out and say, "Oh, look, they're in this just to make Harris lose." No, we want Harris to lose, and we want Trump to lose. I don't think that there is anybody watching this who thinks that Trump is going to be good for this country. The fact is the duopoly, both of them, are terrible for this country. And while the rest of the people out there are trying to figure out which one is worse or which one is better, when they're both absolutely awful and they will both put us on a path to destruction, we are the ones here with the solution. So our message is, yes, we want Harris to lose. Why do we want Harris to lose? Because Harris represents genocide, and you cannot reelect genocide, right? The implications, the unforeseen implications of saying we've got a political party in power right now committing genocide, and while we all agree that is the worst thing that can possibly happen to humanity is a genocide, that we're going to put those people back in office. That for me is completely illogical, makes absolutely no sense. And on those grounds, Kamala Harris should lose. And why should Donald Trump lose? Because he is obviously a fascist. The statements that he has made just in the last, every day, but just in the last couple of days, trash talking on Puerto Rico, and the things that he says about Gaza. And the liberals say to us all the time, "Well, haven't you heard the things that Donald Trump says he would do to Palestine?" And we say, yes, of course we have. Of course we have. And even so, you cannot reelect genocide. But there's no illusion here about Donald Trump. He's a fascist. He's a demagogue. He represents nothing good on this earth or in this world or for this country. We want them both to lose. So if the liberal media, the lamestream media is watching me right now say this, and you want to take my clip out of context and say, oh, I just said I wanted Harris to lose. No, of course we want them both to lose. Why? Because they are our political opponents. Neither of them represent anything good. We want the Green Party to win. The Green Party is the party of the future. We have the plans to serve people, planet, and peace. So I needed to get that piece out there. And I also want to say this. You have heard from Jill tonight, and you have heard from Butch tonight, and you know exactly why the establishment will not put them on stage next to Harris and Trump, and will not put Butch next on the stage next to J.D. Vance and Tim Walz. It would be an absolute drubbing. It would be, it would be 30 seconds and out, and the American people would have said, why have we not heard from these people before? These people who are talking so much sense. Yeah, of course we should stop the wars. Of course we should have education affordable for everybody. Yes, of course we should all have health care. These are things that the American people by and large want. 80% of people are on the same page. And this is something that we have said for a long time. Even when I was with the Democratic Party a long time ago, we were saying 80% of the people agree on policy. Well, how is it that 80% of people agree on policy, and yet we have two major parties that do nothing that the people want? This is absolutely nonsensical in this country, and we are here to turn the page. We are here to turn the page. So on that note, Jill, do you have anything else to say?
Oh, well, I was just going to say thank you, Jason, for representing us so powerfully as you always do. And I wonder, since you arrived late, do you have the Google Doc with the questions? People are submitting questions.
I do not.
Okay.
Where can I find a?
Well,
I
if
think-
you look at your DMs,
Should I
you
look at
just
my
might
DMs?
find it.
Okay.
You'll get right on it. And I want to encourage people as we go. The name of the game right now is punching back, because the empire is doubling down right now because they know their days are numbered, and they are terrified of what we represent. If you saw the Breakfast Club, you saw a whole lot of African Americans waking up in the same way that Muslim Americans have woken up, and students have woken up, and Hispanics are waking up. There is a revolution in the making here right now, a peaceful revolution in the making, and they are terrified. We have the wind at our back right now. We have a perfect storm like we've never had before. So whatever you can contribute, if it's $5 or $25 or $50 or $500 or $3,300, the max, you will just transform the future. This is an investment in the future. I really urge you to own this campaign, like literally own it, and to put whatever dollars you can into this right now, because this is a moment that we don't know if this is ever going to come again. And we have so much power right now. The campaign is literally lifting off. And every dollar that comes in now enables us to really leverage this momentum that we have. So while you are going to that link and making a contribution, and that link should be again in the chat.
I'll say it's very easy. Just as a default link, go to jillstein2024.com and click the donate button. That would be the easiest thing to do. Where can I donate? There you go. Betsy just posted it.
Thank you.
We do have a specific fund that we are raising money for billboards. Georgia, our fundraiser, and again, I gave Mark a shout out, but I do want to give a shout out to our entire team.
Yes.
I would name everybody's name, but then I'd forget one or two, and then I'd get in trouble. So our whole team is fantastic, working around the clock. But Georgia is our fundraiser. You'll see Georgia in the chat. Rose is our fundraiser also. Georgia and Rose work on our fundraising team. Betsy is does our social media. If you see Elena around, she does our graphics, tirelessly working around the clock to produce the wonderful graphics that we produce. Jill mentioned billboards, that we had some 70 odd billboards. That's in Arizona alone, right? That's what Patrick, who is one of our field directors, told me, and he kind of set up the whole billboard project. We drove into Phoenix yesterday, right? We drove into Phoenix, and this is just you know, where we are all over the country. 2 days ago we were in Los Angeles. 3 days ago we were up in San Jose. Yesterday we were in Phoenix. But as we're driving the 5 hours from Los Angeles to Phoenix, we come into Phoenix, and on I-10, I've never seen as many electronic billboards. So we've all got, with 4 of us in the car, we all got our eyes peeled to see if we see our ads on those billboards. We didn't see them, but we have 77 billboards that are running our ads in Arizona alone. So the fund that you are donating to now is putting our message in front of more billboards everywhere in the country in this last week, right? We've got a week to go. Sorry, Jill. Go.
And a big shout out right now to Saja Karishi, who just donated 100 and asked, can you please put some billboards in Iowa? Yes, absolutely. And thank you. The more donations that we get, the more billboards we're going to put up. And also I saw Reno on Reno's iPhone just donated $100. Thank you so much for that, Reno. So if you're making donations, please put them in the chat so we can give you a thank you. Alex is asking, what about this interview with Joe Rogan? We are trying to push that. You know, Joe Rogan
we're trying to get that done.
Put Donald Trump on, and then he offered Kamala Harris, who declined. She said no to Joe Rogan, and you can imagine why she said that. So we're saying to Joe Rogan, you can't just platform Trump, you have to platform an alternative to Trump. And actually, given the way that Kamala Harris seems to be tanking in the polls right now, they're never going to be able to blame us for it, because she's tanking by double digits, by 20 points, in some states 30 points, 40
and in
points.
swing states too.
The more you see, the less you like. I mean, you know that.
Yeah, exactly.
All she has to do is talk in order to, you know,
so
fall
we're
apart.
starting to say that Kamala Harris should get out of the way and stop spoiling the race here and let a real contest take place here between us and Donald Trump. And so for that reason, you know, we're telling you, Joe Rogan, if you're listening, do your duty here, you know, be a real journalist and give voice to the other side rather than the weak, half-baked Republican that Kamala Harris represents. Give voice to the other side. And thank you so much, everyone, for pitching in what you can to help us get the word out in every way possible. And by the way, Hazim El-Manyari.
I mentioned Hazim. Yes, thank you.
Hazim just offered to match any $500 donation. Is there anyone who can put $500 into stopping the genocide right now, into preventing the war from expanding?
If I can say something about Hazim. Hazim has been with us for a long time. I think we first met Hazim back in March, and Hazim is in Indiana. And I want to say what's so important about Hazim's support right now in this moment. Hazim, thank you. It's so good to hear from you again. It's been a little while. Rohina Mustafa, $500. There it is, Hazim.
Right.
But Hazim is in Indiana. Hazim is in Indiana, and we're not even on the ballot in Indiana. Indiana voters don't even, it's one of the few states. There are 5 states where voters do not have us as an option on the ballot or as a write-in. And Indiana's one of them. And here we are with the Indiana Green Party and Hazim stepping up to say,
thank you so much, Hazim.
It's not just about what's happening in my state. It's about growing the movement everywhere. Because I'll tell you what, we will be on the ballot in Indiana in 2028. I guarantee it. We hit that 5%. And I was looking at polling today, and I was there's some polling coming out that among certain constituents, our numbers are starting to go up. We are actually starting to really hit some double-digit numbers in polling across a number of constituencies. If we get to that 5%, that will guarantee us ballot access almost all across the country. And the states that it doesn't immediately guarantee us ballot access in, we will guarantee us the funding for us to get ballot access in 2028. So I am predicting right now 50 states in 2028. We will be on
So-
every single state on your ballot.
Real quick, I want to give a shout out to Steve Welser, who just said he's going to match the next $500 given by separate $100 donors. So we just had a $100 donation. If 4 more people can step up with $100, Steve Welser, who's been such a powerhouse behind this party, one of the real founders going back a long way and really building the New Jersey Green Party. Steve is just an unbelievable powerhouse. Steve is going to put 500 into this fundraiser right now, 500 into shutting down genocide, 500 into stopping the slaughter of children, the expansion of this war. Steve is going to put 500 into that as soon as we get at least 4 more $100 donations. So this is a great time to step up and make that happen if you can.
So Jason, were you able to get access to that questions doc?
I do. I'm looking at it right now. I'm just finding a moment to break in and answer a few questions.
Okay.
Now, and I'll give you that moment in just a second. I also just want to put something into the to the chat. So I donated my $3,300 to the campaign. So I maxed out within the first week of on the campaign. But the good news for those of you who have already maxed out in your campaign contribution, and I know there's a few of you in this room, and you think, oh, what can I do? I can't give anymore. gp.org/donate. You can't donate to the campaign anymore, but you can donate to the Green Party National. So the next person to donate that's already donated to the campaign, the next, I will match any $111 donation up to $1,111. So I'm kicking in 1111 for the Green Party National Fund. If we can get, what is that, 10 people that'll kick in $111 each. So let's get those $111 donations going to the Green Party National, because the Green Party National, of course, can contribute to billboards for any of its campaigns across the country. It can contribute to national advertisements. So if you are one of those people that you already gave your $3,300 during the primary, you already gave your $3,300 for the general election, like I did, get that 1111 in, and people that are big into angel numbers know exactly what that 1111 is about. People that are into Islamic numerology will know what that 1111 is about. So let's get everybody on that 1,111. And if you are in position, I just said that I'll match 10 people that are kicking in 111 each, and I'll do 1111. I'll tell you what, if you're out there and you can do your own 1111, I'll match that too.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, so
Butch, you totally rock.
Let's get those numbers up. Yeah, go ahead, Jill. Sorry.
And well, big praises, infinite praises for you, Butch. You're firing on all cylinders. I don't know anything that you don't do to the max. Butch warned us. He warned us before he accepted running as a VP. He said, if I join this, you are not going to hear the end of it, because when I decide to do it, I'm not just in, I'm all in. And it's so true. And I thank you, Butch, so much for taking you with us to this very higher place where we are going together. And I want to give a shout out to Linda Wan, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, Linda Wan, who just contributed $240 for more billboards in Michigan. So thank you so much, Linda. And also Antonio Cachetes, who just donated $24 and wants us to answer one of his questions. And we'll come to the questions in 1 second. I want to just recognize the others who are pitching in now. Nalia H., who donated also $100 for billboards. Thank you so much, Nalia. And Aisha just bought $93 worth of merch. Merch is great because your donation really helps. And then you become a billboard. You are a living, breathing electronic billboard wearing that merch. So thank you so much for that. Aman Zia just contributed 24. Thank you, Aman. Chelsea donated 24. Elizabeth Berry, 100. General Parker. Oh man, General Parker. I just did an interview with General Parker last week on, I think it's called Urban Intellectuals. Post it in the chat if you can, General Parker, because it was such an absolutely inspirational interview. These amazing powerhouse leaders in the African American community doing just incredible things. I'm so excited about working with you going forward, and so honored, General Parker, that you are donating now. Can't thank you enough. And just put the name of your program again so we can give it a shout out. And Sema Akhtar's mother just donated $25. Julie Leak donated 50. Nicoler donated 24 for How About Billboards in Tennessee. There is a growing movement in Tennessee. I mean, we've been blown away. When we were in North Carolina, we saw incredible hundreds of people coming out, just really dedicated to the campaign and to the Green Party for the long haul. So yes, North Carolina, Tennessee, the Green Party is really rising up strong because people are done being thrown under the bus. So again, thank you, everyone. And let's see, I'm just looking quickly to see if there are any other donations I should mention quickly. Gilda, 24. Thank you, Gilda. And Steve Welser is saying now there have been 2 donations of $100. And we need, I guess,
I think he
2
said
more, I think.
he'd donate.
Just
he'd
to
donate
jump
5
in, there's actually been at least 4 other $100 donations from Helena Nordenflors, Miriam Quebec.
Oh, that's great.
Melissa, I'm totally not getting these names right, but Melissa, Holly Kip, Sarandra. So we're already at 500.
And Jenny
Fantastic.
also just donated 100. So there's another 100 in the pot. So Stephen, thank you
So
for offering.
I want to get to some of these questions because we do have a document with questions. The first thing I want to say this out loud because it's been mentioned in the chat a couple of times about donating. What do I do if I'm unemployed or if I'm retired or if I'm self-employed? Just put that down. That's fine. If you do not have an employer, then you do not have an employer. That's fine. The FEC requires us to collect this information. And so no, you cannot donate unless you fill in those boxes, but just say what the deal is. If you don't have an employer, not a big deal. The other thing I wanted to say is somebody had asked about Leonard Peltier. Leonard Peltier's name keeps coming up in the chat. Absolutely, we will be releasing political prisoners. Leonard Peltier is a political prisoner, as is Mumia Abu Jamal, and many others. I want to say that the kind of thing about Mumia is he's a state prisoner rather than a federal prisoner, but we will demand that the state government of Pennsylvania release Mumia Abu Jamal. Clearly a political prisoner, as are a number of others in this country. We will support whistleblowers like Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. So, if you are, I say these thoughts are on your mind because they're a little bit niche. Just know that we are on the right side of history with those individuals. We support collective liberation everywhere. Leonard Peltier has been held for 50 years now, and he was just denied clemency, which is an effective at his age, a death sentence. And absolutely, we will do everything to see that he spends his years after outside. And so one of the questions, who's asking?
I just want to make sure that we need to cover at least some of the questions. And by the way, Butch, your 1111, it's done. You're due, buddy. You have to pay it.
That's no problem at all.
And also
I'm happy to kick into the kitty. Absolutely.
and also the 500, 100 each is already covered. I mean, all that covered. Please keep guys doing it. I see $11.11. I see. I mean, those 11.11. I mean, we need to keep them coming. They can add up. Just make sure to continue with the 11.11, as Butch said to us. He gave us the story about 11.11 the first time he came with us on the first Zoom. We need to continue.
I want to jump in and I just acknowledge quickly some really generous donations. Every one of these is a really generous donation, but I don't want to leave anybody out. Dale Pandia, 250, Robin Mustafa, 500, Kate Shahid, 500, and Shazia Muhammad donated 500 earlier this evening. So thank you all so much. You are really powering us up. You are powering us towards that 5%. Who knows, maybe beyond that 5%, who knows, maybe 26% and into the White House. We have every reason to win this election. Thank you to everyone to keep on donating. I see a whole bunch more coming in, but let's turn to some questions. And let's see, Butch, do you have the, you should get the link as well. If there are questions that you want to take, please shout out and take a question. I'm going to just jump in with the first one here. Amy Jo Nova, who asked through Facebook, what should we be doing after the election? How can we stay present in the minds and eyes of the world and the US citizens who accuse us of so-called disappearing between election years? How do we stay connected and growing as a movement for change? And the quick answer to that is why we need a political vehicle, because in order to preserve a coalition that continues to work together, that runs candidates at the local level and up beyond the local level too, that helps get people out to resist genocide, to resist or to support striking workers, to resist the extraction of fossil fuels and new fracking. We got to do stuff. And what we do depends on our community, which is why we want to be organized at the level of state parties and also local chapters, because it's all about the local stuff is how you live and how we, how we stay in the invisible. The mainstream media is going to lock us out no matter what. They are also going to keep throwing smears at us no matter what. So what we want to be doing is building local networks, and then those local networks join together. But that's where we really build at the grassroots level. So that's, generally the game plan. We want to be organized. I urge you, stay active in the social movements, but we have to link those social movements through a larger political movement. And that's what we're doing as the Green Party. So many people are stepping up and joining the party now, and they are going out and creating local chapters, which we can help guide you through. Once we get through this election, as far as I'm concerned, nobody goes home, take off a couple days, maybe take off a week, but we don't want to spill that momentum. We don't have time to waste. I myself have never been able to go on vacation after, or take a big break. I mean, I'm as guilty as any just compulsive activist for seizing the momentum coming out of a campaign and just doubling down with it and moving forward. So that's what we got to do. We got to harness this momentum and build our local chapters. As we do that, after this election, we will be providing support, sample bylaws and just support for how do you create a new chapter? How do you help candidates run? We want to be able to provide, best practices and support for us to grow the movement. That's how we stay visible, and that's how we stay active. Let me just ask.
Oh,
Go
no,
ahead.
question
Go ahead,
also
jump in, please, Butch.
that follows up from this one nicely. So Michael Veldman is in the chat. And I'll just quote the question directly. He said, I strongly agree that Professor Ware and Dr. Stein are the dream team and make an extremely effective pairing, especially when facing pro-duopoly hostility, e.g. the Masterful Breakfast Club interview. It's been a joy to watch you both, whether doing your thing separately or together, playing off each other seamlessly. My question is, do you have plans to carry forward as a team, as national level leaders of the Green Party? And if so, what does that look like in the absence of an ongoing presidential campaign? So I'll start the answer to this and then I'm gonna let you finish it. There's no breaking up this duo after this. I'm just gonna, we have been, brought together, as I said, like in the crucible of combat. I'm not ashamed to say that, that my love and affection and deep esteem for Dr. Jill Stein, there's no chance that we're parting company. And the first part is that what does it look like in the absence of an ongoing presidential campaign? Well, the direct answer to your question is we're going to be building a transition team. And and failing that, we absolutely will stay committed to growing this party, to making sure that they can't never get us out of the public discourse, ever again. No one will ever be able to disingenuously say that the Green Party just disappears, because we are going to make sure that we stay in people's faces, especially up to the point that our authorities, these fascists, these purple fascists, Team Blue and Team Red, stop mass murdering people in our names. This movement does not end on election day. Electoral politics are part of it, but the party has goals and aspirations that extend beyond just winning elections. We as human beings have commitments that extend beyond just winning elections, and we are not putting down this armor until the people get free. But that means folk in Palestine, in Sudan, in Congo, and of course, in these United States of America.
And again, amen to that. Thank you for the question. And Butch, thank you for the inspirational answer. And let me just encourage people to help us come out of this race as strong as we possibly can, which is really going to set the course for what happens after the election. What happens after the election depends so much on what happens in these next 7 days. And whatever number we finish with, whether it's 3% or 5% or 15 or 26 or 51, whatever it is a victory. It's a victory because we have discovered each other. It's a victory because we are in solidarity and coalition with each other, that the Butch Ware Jill Stein team is here to stay, and exactly what form that will take, I don't know, but we are so much in partnership here, and have been from the moment we had our first conversation. It was like, oh my God, have I known you my whole life? Well, it turns out I actually knew Butch's second mother. Butch had a second mother as the son of a single mom. He had another mom that kind of child raised together. Annie Young, who was the first elected Green in Minnesota, and specifically in Minneapolis. And Annie Young was the commissioner of parks, who was a role model to me. I had met her in my first presidential campaign in 2012. And she was like the epitome of exactly what a public servant in any capacity should be. So to then discover, after we found we were totally kind of in the same pod, really, in the same little vortex of the universe here, to discover that Annie Young was our common denominator. It was just totally amazing. So we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here, and we will come out all the stronger to help us all lift each other up. With your donations, we will finish stronger. So I want to encourage people, if you can be a part of this effort and throw in whatever you can here at this 11th hour, as we begin to, well, I wouldn't say we've not begun to wrap up, but as we do our final big push here in the last week of the campaign, please go ahead and do that if you can. I'll jump in now with another question. when elected president, will you do a bi-weekly address? And this is from Adam M. Thank you, Adam, for your questions. Will you do a bi-weekly address to the country listing all the money that members of Congress took and how they blocked legislation that would help people, how they blocked legislation that would help people instead of corporations? And would you name names regardless of what party they're in? Absolutely. And that's a really great suggestion. Of course, we would be doing regular fireside chats or weekly empowerment or bi-weekly empowerment announcements. We'll also be bringing back town hall meetings so that elected officials have to meet with their voters. Right now, they just meet with their donors. So we will bring back things to re-engage the wheels of democracy. We'll also bring back congressional hearings so that we can actually have these hearings to inform the American people, inform the press of what actually is going on, the realities of genocide, the realities of Medicare for all, how reparations would work, and why we actually owe that $13 trillion in an unpaid wages to the people who built this country. We need to have we need to get the gears of democracy working again. But I love your idea of shining a bright light on what is the money that's corrupting our Congress, and who is donating that money, and to absolutely name names, because the Green Party, as you may know, we don't take dirty money. We take small donations. That's it. We live within the legal limits. The other parties all use the loopholes for legalized corruption. So we have absolutely nothing to hide. And there's a saying that the best disinfectant is sunshine. Sunshine is the best disinfectant. So we will be applying that disinfectant everywhere that we possibly can. Butch, let me just check in and see if you have found a question that you would like to take.
There was one that that I thought was useful, and it was about this and it was from an anonymous attendee, so there was no name to assign to it. But I thought that this was actually something that came up in a press interview that I did earlier today that I think is really useful to talk about. How to close military bases around the world and still keep America safe. And so I mean, I gave kind of the beginning of the answer to that in an interview that I did earlier, that was based off conversations that we had about how so many of those bases actually serve no military function. And so I think that this is actually a really important thing to remind people of, is that right now that military overextension does not keep us safe. It does quite the opposite. And that kind of imperialist overreach, as Malcolm, put it, risks chickens coming home to roost. But I think it's useful to explain, how we can, keep America safe, and also make the world a safer place, by approaching that. And I've heard you talk, with such clarity and eloquence about this, that I like the question, because I wanted to hear the answer too.
Cool. Sorry, I was distracted there for a moment, but was this the question about closing bases?
Closing bases, and the overall approach to, to making America safer by, moving in these ways.
Yeah. And let me just, double down on that. Our military right now is so overblown and so toxic that it is engaging us in conflict all around the world. So having, as Kamala Harris described it, the most lethal military force, what does it do? It creates, it becomes the greatest purveyor of violence in the world again today, as Martin Luther King said. We need a foreign policy, let me say, based on diplomacy, human rights, and international law, and we need to be part of a multinational, multipolar world framework rather than an imperial domination. So the next biggest country in terms of bases, I think, is Russia, which has somewhere around 35. Okay, and we have 800. So what's wrong with that picture? What's wrong is that we have bases everywhere. In fact, according to the Brown University Cost of War Project, we have so-called anti-terror wars going on now, or operations. They're not quite wars, but they're hostile and violent operations in 85 countries around the world. That's almost every country. You know, this is how the US exercises full spectrum dominance. We dominate all corners of the world through military might, and it's put the whole world on fire. And we install dictators and vicious opponents of human rights. And we also, you know, we also challenge governments all over the place. And so they clamp down on human rights, in part because of the US regime change operations that are going on against them, sometimes undercover as some moderate terrorists, you know. So the US has a really horrific history of inspiring violence and relying on violence. So we have to do, you know, we have to do the opposite of that. In my view, we should be leading a global disarmament process. This is not what we can afford to be doing with our precious tax dollars. We need to be investing now in the true dangers to our health and welfare and survival, namely climate change in particular, and, you know, and poverty. And we should be challenging the other nations of the world to be massively ramping down our military budgets. But right now, we can cut our military budget at least in half. And along with that, we can phase out those military bases, and most of them are not necessary. So we can scale way back and then begin to demilitarize along with other nations of the world, in the same way that all nations of the world need to get on board with making nuclear weapons a thing of the past. This does us no good at all. We're engaged in arms races all over the world right now, nuclear and otherwise. This is where half of our tax dollars are going. So we don't have to know every step of the way to know what the immediate steps are, which is, let's start by cutting our budget. Our budget right now is the size of the next 10 biggest military spenders all combined. So we can cut that in half. We can close many of the bases. You know, we're building bases all over the place. We are turning paradise into, you know, a toxic military base. And this is happening especially in Southeast Asia right now. But that's not the only place. You know, all over Africa, we are building bases as part of AFRICOM. And Africa is now standing up to say, get out of here. You know, we don't want you. And they're saying to France and to the US, you know, take your violent interventions and get the hell out of here. That's what we should be doing. It's not rocket science to start moving in the right direction on this.
Jill, we're about $4,500 short on a $60,000 goal for billboards. And so we've got, we're gonna call this our goal for the day for the rest of the 15 minutes that we've got here. If we can raise another $4,500, we will have hit a $60,000 goal for billboards all across the country. We do have our billboards up on over 1,600 billboards across the country. And so we are looking to expand that. We do not have them in all states, but I think we have them in 40 out of 50 states right now, but we want to expand that, and we want to expand their frequency. So as Georgia just put in the chat right there, $4,500 will take us to a $60,000 goal. So so if you guys can think, I want to reiterate our maximum donation is $3,300 per individual. If you are somebody who has donated a lot but are not quite at that $3,300 maximum, please consider taking it right up to the limit there at $3,300. And if you, again, no donation too big or too small. Well, actually, donation's too big, but up to $3,300, but no donation too small. If you can kick in $5, please kick in $5. So I'm going to leave it at that. We'll be reminding you of that in the chat because it is important to hit our goals. It is meaningful to the campaign and to our overall goals of what we want to use that money for to hit the actual fundraising goal. But there are a number of questions that still need to be answered. We are certainly not going to get to all of them. I think there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 130 questions in the Q&A, but a number of them have been sort of condensed and pulled into a document. And if we can do a speed round in the last 15 minutes on answering some of these questions, just concise answers, and that way people will feel like they've had their concerns heard. And
Let's do it.
let's go to it. So $420. I love that one.
Oh, man.
You would love that one.
That's
Yeah.
one of my favorite numbers. So thank you. I appreciate that. Any iteration of 420, $4.20 for $420, $42. That's great.
$42.00.
We'll take it. Thank you, Ruba Marie. All right, I'm gonna pass it back over to Jill and Butch.
I lost Jason's audio.
Oh, did we? Okay.
Great. And Butch, feel free to jump in. Again, if you can go to the Google Doc with the questions, we're going to sort of focus on these right now and see if we can do a lightning round through them. And I'll get started here with a question from Avi M, who says, after this election, what's the Green strategy to build momentum through the midterms leading up to 2028? And how do you plan to organize and push for key reforms, electoral reforms like ranked choice voting and proportional representation to create the foundation for true multi-party system by 2032? What steps will you take to keep electoral reform and breaking the duopoly at the forefront of the national conversation? So I'm going to just do a abbreviated answer here, which is saying that we have to stay, in the momentum here by running races at the local level, whether it's for school board, whether it is for your housing commission or your open space, development board, and especially your city council or your board of selectmen, because if you're on that board, you can be passing the resolutions to shut down the genocide, the resolutions for ceasefire at the national level. You can be passing resolutions and actually divesting your town or your city from the money that is supporting the government and corporations that support Israel. So by running for office, we stay at the tip of the spear, and we follow the advice of Frederick Douglass that power concedes nothing without a demand. So we make that demand. Ranked choice voting and proportional representation, many states are pushing that now. And there are referendums this year coming up on November 5th in Washington State and Oregon, I believe. The Democrats are now fighting this. They are trying to pass these fake ranked choice voting bills that basically do a what's called a jungle primary, which is where everybody piles in and there's no ranked choice. It's like top two, which means that the people who spend the most money will win. There's no ranked choice voting. There's no reassignment of votes and so on. There's no runoffs. They run a jungle primary and then they do a runoff vote after the jungle primary. And that basically means that money will decide, money will be the filter, and then there will be ranked choice voting when it doesn't matter. There will be ranked choice voting when it's not going to help because the damage is already done. Oligarchy has already decided the candidates. So Democrats are really pushing that now in order to prevent ranked choice voting from taking hold. So and once again, the solution here, AV, and I thank you very much for this question. The solution really boils down to us having the courage of our convictions and being organized. as, I don't know, was this another Malcolm X quote? I'm learning all these Malcolm X quotes right now from Butch, and it's really terrific because they are so on the money. We are not outnumbered, we're just out-organized. We got the numbers, we got the solutions, we got the values. We just got to be organized, okay? And that's what a political party is for. We are an organization. We are an organization that will stand up and fight. That is what the Greens are about. We do not take money. We don't get bought off. So that is, it's by continuing to fight within the party. That's how we are going to, stay front and center, and how we're going to build this. And that includes running for office. And I have to recognize now Dr. Amanda Peterson, who said to everyone, would paying $3,000 be all right? So can we just give you a big thank you, Dr. Peterson? $3,000, I think, would go a very long way to getting to closing the gap and getting that 60,000 for billboards. So thank you so much. Yes, that would definitely be all right. That would be way more than all right. That would be, oh, and now here I see Nicole saying, I don't know if she's pledging or if Nicole, if this is just informational, that 3,300. Oh, Nicole is asking, is 3,300 the maximum? Yes, it is the maximum. And if anyone is able to do that, we could maybe push ourselves beyond that 60,000 and keep going from here. If people are ready to step up, there's never been a better moment. There's never been a moment. And Georgia said that we had 3,600 to go. So if we do have that 3,000 that Dr. Amanda Peterson asked about, that would be amazing. So before we make assumptions, maybe Dr. Peterson, you can let us know if that is something you're able to do. And likewise, Nicole, who was also asking about this, you guys could get us close to maybe, 65 or 70,000. This is that
May-
moment. This is that tipping point when we move from the breaking point to the tipping point. Go ahead, Butch. What were you
Well,
going
I
to say?
just saw Dr. Amanda Peterson put this in the chat. She says she's able to pay more than 6,000 if it would help. So let's just be, clear. You absolutely can do that. Put in the 3,300 to the campaign, and then go to gp.org/donate to donate directly to the Green Party. The Green Party donation website is prepared to accept donations up to 5,000 there. If you've paid that 8,300, then go to the Green Party congressional donation page. You can also give there. That's a separate donation. If you've already given there, go to your local Green Party state donation page. We absolutely need the support from every level because, as Dr. Stein and I have both been discussing throughout this evening, we are about building this party going forward from November 6th, no matter what the outcome is in this election. And begging your pardon, Dr. Jill, you know me, I pray on time. So the sunset has already happened. It's time for me to break for prayer. But I just want to let you know that you, your family, this whole movement will be covered in those prayers that I'm about to make. And I want to just thank everybody here, and especially you for bringing me into this movement in this way. Been a public servant my whole life. Never expected that public service would turn to elected office. But now that I'm into it, I'm going to be fighting alongside you as long as I can. So appreciate you, and thank you to everybody that's been giving the support. And I'm going to have to log out on that. So thanks again.
Thank you so much, Butch. We're with you. Thank you for being with us. So just to finish out whatever people can contribute as we close down here, we are, maybe verging on this 60,000 right now. And when we see the donations actually show up on the website, then we are quite confirmed where we are. And if people can just go ahead and make your donations now. It'll help us just have a little more clarity about exactly what we are raising right now. And thank you to everyone for your support. Jason, any final closing comments here?
I will say that with what we've gotten from Action Network and Shopify, we reached it. So
Oh man. Oh, that is so wonderful.
That's
Wow.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who has
Yeah,
contributed. And
just big thanks. That's all. You know,
big thanks.
We're all exhausted. I'm exhausted. I actually was falling asleep as I had my camera turned on. I don't want to lie. I'm home after a week being on the road for a week. I've got my cat in my lap, and I was nodding off listening to Butch talk in a very good way, one of those sort of soothing like I can listen to this going to sleep. It's good.
And I have to vouch for
Thank you
Jason.
so much, everybody.
Jason so deserves to go to sleep, because when I'm up, he's up, and he's up even when I'm not up. And this has been like a 24/7 campaign,
It
because
really has.
these have been just exploding in the best way imaginable. And we have been, just really running as fast as we possibly can to keep up with this, this embarrassment of riches, this absolute, uprising that's happening, that everybody is driving right now. And I see your cat is so happy to have you home, Jason. It's great to see you reunited. It's great to be seeing everybody, to be meeting you out on the campaign trail and meeting you on social media, and just feeling that the universe, the moral arc of the universe, is bending right now. And we are collectively giving birth here, to a different kind of a world. The universe that we need is, we are at the breaking point of the empire, and we're at the birthing point, really, of that beloved community that Martin Luther King spoke of. So big thank you to everyone for making this happen, for being the inspiration, for your generosity, for your vision, and for the love that we share as a unified community. Thank you all so very much. Thank you for being a part of tonight. Thank you to the beautiful Uprising. Resistance is Beautiful, for joining us earlier in the evening. Thank you to all of you for all that you do. So this is not goodbye. This is let's carry on, and we will be in touch. And prepare, of course, for a big celebration on Election Day. So this will be our last live stream before the election, but we will be carrying on the election itself, and then continuing that momentum afterwards. So thank you so much to everyone. Thank you to all the staff that helped put this together tonight. So
Thank you.
take it from there.
Hello, thanks.